Konnichiwa, and welcome back to the Geisha of Gore. Today, I'm going to be discussing another pretty iconic Asian horror film. This one from South Korea. It's 2004's A Tale of Two Sisters. It's written and directed by Kim Ji-woon, who is also known for such films as The Quiet Family, which is kind of a horror comedy, The Good, the Bad, the Weird, and I Saw the Devil, among other things. It's inspired by a centuries-old folk tale. Not the first time it's been adapted in modern media. It was the first South Korean film, ever screened in the United States. It remains the highest grossing South Korean horror film. And there is an American remake, 2009's The Uninvited. I can't say anything about it because I haven't seen it. In general, I'm not a huge fan of remakes, especially foreign films to American films. I've just seen some bad ones, so I haven't been interested. If you've seen it, any thoughts on it you might want to share, get in the comments, because I'll be reading them, and maybe I'll check it out if enough of you recommend it. Anyway, Tale of Two Sisters is about a teenage girl, Sumi, who has just returned home with her father and sister after she was in a mental institution because she had suffered from shock and psychosis. Her mom had died. Her mother was terminally ill. Although there are some bizarre circumstances surrounding the mom's death. Like, she was terminal with cancer, but that's not necessarily why she died. Her and her father are distant. They don't really communicate. Dad still seems kind of lost and just doesn't know how to communicate with her and how to handle the situation. There's also the girl's stepmother, Yeonju, and they clearly do not get along. There's a lot of animosity there. I think the girls blame her on some level for their mother's death, the circumstances surrounding their mother's death. And I mean, Sumi isn't afraid to say what she thinks, you know. The younger sister, Soo-yeon, she's very quiet, kind of timid, you know. She doesn't say much, but Sumi is very protective of her and outright just tells her, listen, if that woman, she calls her, does anything to hurt you, promise you'll tell me. So there's a very strong bond between the sisters. The older Sumi starts to have nightmares involving her late mother's ghost coming to visit her. Quick flashes of things in her nightmares that sort of foreshadow things. There's also a foreshadowing kind of indirectly. The stepmother keeps 2 parakeets as pets, and they both die in the movie in different ways, but it foreshadows what's coming. It's psychological overall. Just a little bit of a supernatural element to it, though. Like, it's just enough that but it fits in. It totally works. You know, it's nothing over the top or outlandish or something where you would go, oh, geez, come on, you know. As the story goes on, things become more tense and more heated between Sumi and her stepmother. Her father tries to kind of smooth things out a little bit, but it's at that point that there's, spoiler alert, the youngest sister is dead. Strange circumstances surrounding the sister's death, as well as the mother's death. Bizarre occurrences. Wow. It's a beautiful film. It's heartbreaking. You just feel for this girl. She's had a rough time, and she seems to be spiraling mentally, spiraling out of control again. That whatever they did for her at the hospital, maybe it wasn't enough. Maybe she wasn't there long enough. Maybe Dad took her home because he thought he could treat her. Dad's a doctor. The stepmother's a nurse. The stepmother actually was helping to take care of Sumi's mom when she was sick with cancer. It's a haunting film. Like, it leaves you thinking long after you've stopped watching. It deals a lot with grief, how individually we may experience grief, how it's different from one person to the next. Also guilt. There's a lot of guilt, especially Sumi clearly has a lot of guilt about what happened to her mom and her sister. Dad, I think, too, feels he's still processing his grief as well over his wife and his younger daughter. And guilt, too, the role he played, you know. And I think he's still dealing with the guilt of why can't I help my daughter? It's a slow burn, so it's, you know, there's no like jump scares or, you know, nothing necessarily as shocking as the end of Audition. Very different type of movie. I mean, psychological, yes, both of them are. It's a little also ambiguous. Ambiguity is pretty common in Asian horror films, regardless of country. You know, there's a lot, you know, and there's still the whole film. It's like, you're not completely sure. You're never completely sure what's going on. You're really not. It can be confusing, but don't let that put you off if you haven't seen it. It's a favorite of mine. It really is. It's just it's so sad when you see it through to the end. It's sad, it's poignant. It really is beautifully done though. I think Kim Ji-woon completely hit it out of the park with this one. And that's why it's still so popular to this day, 20 years later. It's still a very popular film, both in South Korea and overseas. It has a runtime of 114 minutes, Korean with English subtitles. I'm sure you could probably find a dubbed copy if you prefer dubbing. I prefer subs because I like to hear the voices of the actors and actresses, that originally play these roles. It's available on DVD and Blu-ray, I believe. I have a DVD. Once again, a bit of a hoarder, not just books, but movies too. Can't find it yet. So, it is streaming, but I think it depends on like the area you're in. It's supposed to be streaming on AMC, on Amazon Prime with a subscription. But again, I think it depends on the area. Because when I was trying to find it to watch it again, I thought, oh, I'll just watch it on Prime instead of tearing the house apart looking for my DVD. And on Prime, it was, oh, this is not available to see in your area. So, for what it's worth. I mean, it is still available. You just kind of got to find it. It's a great film. I mean, I recommend it to anyone. It's not something that's scary, it doesn't have that scare element where, you're gonna be like, oh my God. It's like I said, it's a slow burn. It's a very poignant tale, very sad. But definitely worth watching. I can't even, and that was just one spoiler. I can't even get into everything else because I really don't want to ruin it. And the only reason I gave that spoiler is because it happens kind of in the middle of the movie. So it's not like something at the end, but it is definitely something that plays into the continuation of this poor teenager and the disintegration of her mental state. So if you see it, let me know down in the comments. And I'll see you guys soon for the next movie. Bye-bye.